Yeah, very
Like, who
basic in
cares?
terms of plot maneuvering.
I know, but we're podcasting about it, Varley. So let's at least presume that for the next 25 minutes we care.
Yeah, but
Otherwise,
like,
we could
who
just go home.
cares? No, but like, who cares about it? Like, it's such a stupid little side plot. Like, it's inconsequential. Like, I don't understand why they're wasting time on this.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Vassals of Kingsgrave discussion of the new Amazon series Rings of Power. My name is Spina007. You can find us all on the Vassals of Kingsgrave Discord. If you Google VOK podcast and come to our WordPress site, you'll find a link for it. I'm joined today by Mary.
Hi everyone, it's Mary and Nymeria on Discord.
And by Michael.
Hello, Khal Wadege on Discord.
And I'm hoping the size of this podcast speaks more to my last-minute nature of organising it than the popularity of the show, although I do hear rumblings about glacial pacing. So let's start off with our Rings of Power rating out of 5, not 19 or 20. Mary, do you want to go first in episode 4 and maybe tell us how your ratings have evolved? And actually, just a warning to the listener that we could potentially spoil anything in Tolkien's published works or indeed the Peter Jackson movies. Over to you, Mary.
Yeah, so I think I'd go down this week compared to last week, which I really liked, I think. My memory isn't great, but I'm like maybe 3 out of 5, something like that. It is quite slow. It still is beautiful, but just I need a bit more to happen. Like I'm happy to be in the universe that's been established. That was the feeling for the first few episodes, and now I kind of need something more to keep me interested. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Michael, how about you?
Yeah, I've gone down to 2 out of 5 for similar reasons that the pacing is not quite there. I don't feel that anything of real consequence has happened. There's nothing that's really coalescing any of these storylines to my satisfaction. And I just am not satisfied with the dialogue and the writing. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I have to say I would have been with Mary on a 3 for exactly the reasons both of you have laid out. Glacial pacing, offsetting what was some actually quite lovely stuff I thought in Khazad-dûm. But I had to dock it an extra point just for that awful kind of meet cute between Elendil's daughter and Pharazôn's son. I just thought it was so kind of like, oh, let's bump into each other in a high school corridor and realize we have stuff in common as you drop your art book. It just felt so terrible. So I'm really concerned that it hasn't kind of picked up pace and hooked us yet. And I really hope the next episode they start really getting into some action. Oh, so hey, Varley, do you want to give your Rings of Power rating out of 5 for this week's episode?
Sure, I did not like it. I'll give it a 2.5. I think that on the timeline of the entire series, it might be more justified, but it just feels like it's going so slowly.
Varley, you're in fellowship because Michael gave it a 2, I gave it a 2, and Mary gave it a 3 for exactly the same reason.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So
Okay,
that's
good.
it for the podcast, right? We're all in agreement. Let's call it a day.
Yeah, just one big circle jerk. I did love Elrond Durin. That interplay is a gift that keeps on giving. But yeah, everything else it's a little tough.
Let's talk about the 3 different plot locations. So we have Numenor, we have the Southlands, and we have Khazad-dûm. And maybe start with Khazad-dûm first. It's a more discrete storyline where Disa has discovered Mithril, which we know is going to be a very important ore. And Durin is off to go mine it in secret from Elrond at first, although he then shares the secret in growing friendship. Durin's father discovers that this is what's happening. There's a horrible cave accident, although thankfully no one dies, and a very beautiful ceremony in which Disa sings to ask the rocks not to kill the people who have been trapped. And there's a long discussion about fathers. So Durin railing against his father for not allowing him to mine that new seam, and Elrond giving quite a very moving story about his father being lost and having to live up to very august parents and the pressure it puts on you, but actually taking advantage of them still being with you, because it's very sad when they go. Do you all want to talk about what you didn't like about this? For me, the highlight was that discussion, the Elrond moving thing about his father. But I did really love the song to release the miners alive. I thought that was strangely moving. But over to you guys.
Elrond's little song to the door to try again to open up.
The little rat-a-tat-tat, yeah.
Yeah.
That was very
It also seemed like a running theme was like trying to impress your father or live up to your father's standards or something, and every character seemed to have a little bit of that this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we will come to the is he Sauron figure in the Southlands whose name is Adar, which also means dad, apparently. Mary, thoughts on this part of the story?
Well, just like you, it's my favorite part as well. Again, I think the tone is right, whereas I don't think it is quite in other parts of the story. The dwarves and the Moria is looking amazing. I was a bit surprised at how easily Elrond was sneaking in and going wherever he pleases, but I guess that's the charm of being an elf. I liked the little thing about giving Disa the find, like saying that she's the one who found that. It's just there. They don't make a big point about it, but it's nice.
Agreed. Michael, anything else?
Yeah, I'm always just happy to see aspects of dwarven culture, which I think are interesting, and more of the Khazad-dûm shots I think are really nice. I'm intrigued as to what this mithril will lead to. Either we're getting to that very end goal where Khazad-dûm and the mines delve too deep, or will this mithril be used in forging of the rings? I don't know, shocking lack of knowledge.
Yeah, what were the rings made of? Does anyone know?
I don't think mithril, but I might be completely wrong.
I would
think
guess not
Narnia.
mithril.
I think Narnia was mithril, the one that Galadriel has, but I don't
Oh.
know about the rest. When you say what's going to happen with the mithril, I do like the thought of like a bunch of like dwarf scientists like in the next episode in lab coats and test tubes, like trying to figure out, because they're like, oh, we got to figure out like what its properties are and stuff like that. So I
Well, he
like
gave
that because
some to Elrond, so presumably Celebrimbor's going to be the guy who's doing that and
yeah.
realizing what cool shit he can do with it.
I like the fact that there's like an element of discovery, because we just kind of take it for granted in like the later books that the dwarves know how to like do all this shit like kind of off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. It's lovely to see stuff coming together like that. So there was a debate going on the Discord chat about Rings of Power. Nuncle Kevin said, "Does Elrond come off kind of sleazy to anyone else? I guess it feels like he is convincing in the way that Gandalf could be, except that Gandalf had a pure purpose. It's the way he keeps leveraging the friendship for his political goals and saying that he isn't doing that." So yeah, any feelings about Elrond? Because I kind of agreed with Kevin. I think that Elrond keeps making out like it's friendship and he's leaning on Durin for friendship, but evidently he wants to impress Celebrimbor, and he is an elf, and I feel that there is this theme, isn't there, about the fact that all things on Earth, Middle Earth, are going to be corrupted by pride and power, and that it's partly transactional, this friendship. But how do you all feel about Elrond at this point?
I think I'm more on Adam's side of the debate here. Like, he says that it doesn't seem like that to him, and he loves the kind of innocence that Elrond has. He just enjoys his friendship and genuinely believes that Durin is going to bring something to the project, but that it's a good fit for him as well. I kind of agree with that, but it's also because we have very little dialogue, right? So it's hard to really figure out what's going on with these characters, and Elrond seems a bit neutral in a way. So I'd rather think that he values his friendship and he's not using it too much, but I could totally see it the other way around. It's more what
I
I choose
agree.
to believe.
But I think it'll be interesting to see if the writers choose to give Elrond a test. Maybe Celebrimbor asks him to do something or to take some sort of dwarfish knowledge, and whether Elrond puts Durin or Celebrimbor first, like duty before friendship. But so far, there's a lack of dramatic tension in this entire show, so who knows if we'll get that. And any other comments on Elrond?
Just what you pointed out now, that the fact that Celebrimbor might be investigating this Mithril, and Elrond did take an oath holding of the mountain that he was not going to blab to anyone about it. So I do wonder if that might be his test in a future episode.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think we saw some of his motives. If he's coming off creepy, he's trying to live up to this Erendio. Like, he's like, my father's a fucking star that you can see every night. Like, how am I supposed to top that? So I think that maybe his ambition will kind of be his downfall, or cause that dramatic tension that we think will happen.
Yeah, a really beautiful theme to show. It's kind of interesting, actually, how House of the Dragons and Rings of Power seem to have this living up to parents, parental-child relationship at the heart of them. Anything else on all things dwarfish?
Durin's wife is really good at making up shit on the fly.
She's so awesome. I love her as a character.
Yeah.
Which is impressive for like a made-up character, that she just seems very both of the world and yet wonderfully not, but in the best way, like in harmony with it. Okay, so shall we move to the lands formerly loyal to Morgoth, maybe still loyal to Morgoth, which we know that Galadriel thinks Halbrand is really the lost king of. And we have our elf cop who has been captured, and we see the face of this shadowy figure who may or may not be Sauron, who tells him to go back to his people and say that, or not his people, but the Southlanders, and say, you've got to basically surrender and worship Morgoth, and your lands will be forfeit, or we'll just kill you. And in the midst of doing that, he rescues Theo. So Theo has come back to try and steal some grain, gets cornered by an orc, but has a blade hilt, which may well be the sword hilt that Sauron has previously lost, and that the orcs are trying to find, because when his blood hits it, it launches into a kind of magical sword. So do we think Theo's particularly of interest, or is it just that he happens to have this sword and that's the interesting thing? And how did you find this whole episode, and any theories on who the father figure to the orcs truly is?
Cold hands, like same makeup and everything.
In the ultimate fantasy crossover.
It is him. We finally found him.
I mean, the shadowy figure might not be Sauron. It might just be another of Morgoth's henchmen who happens to look creepy, right?
I don't think it's Sauron, actually.
Yeah, I'm leaning against Sauron now.
Yeah.
He doesn't look fair enough, right?
No, exactly. Sauron in this moment in time is supposed to be like this very beautiful character that he's gonna corrupt everyone, and this one looks like a villain, so it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a whole group called the Black Numenorians, and in the extended version of the movies, we see the mouth of Sauron, and we see him in the books as well. And he's described as a lieutenant of Sauron that was corrupted, and he was a Numenorian. So I think it might be someone like that, but not Sauron.
Cool. Yeah. Good call. Good call.
While we're still on who is that, who suggested Lucky Charms on Discord? Suggested that it might be Maegor, who is, if I remember correctly, what I googled when he asked. He's one of Fiona's sons, who kind of got like to a bad place. So I don't think there's any book truth to that, but it might be him. I would like that idea. I mean, the idea that he is like a corrupted elf is kind of what the show is going for, I think, but we will find out, I guess.
Yeah. At any rate, the corruption of things and people by Sauron is clear. Do we think Theo just happens to be a random cute little boy, or is there some significance to the fact that he has the sword hilt? Is there something special about his blood hitting it, it, or could it be anyone's blood?
The fact that they won't specify who his father is makes me suspicious, although that stupid tavern keeper also seems to have done some ritual with the sword, so maybe it just takes any and all blood.
Yeah, so that's what made me think, oh, maybe Theo isn't that special. Maybe it just is. It's just, he's just a token of, look, even this innocent young child can be corrupted. And intimidated by fear. But I guess we'll at some point find out. I don't know. I found this all profoundly uninteresting, actually. And like the ludicrously unnecessary slow motion rescue by the elf cop.
Yes,
I mean,
again, why? Why the slow motion? I mean, and also the
no.
music just didn't make sense at all. Like you'd have expected something a bit more like with tension, dramatic, like thriller vibe, or like you need to feel in danger. And we had this choral, very atmospheric thing in the music, which was more tragic than it was dramatic and scary.
It's almost like they feel that anytime elves are on the move, we have to have choral music
But
that's kind of
yeah,
mystical, even if it's totally unnecessary. Like,
it
oh, it's a
is.
guy running
Yeah.
with a bow and arrow. Why would that be all choral and mystical? That's just a guy
And
fleeing.
it wasn't that mystical. It was mostly the way I heard it was like it's a really tragical moment, like Boromir dying moment, with the arrows going around him and you're. I mean, it didn't sound right to me at all, the music. And I think just that one detail, which is not a detail, obviously, could have changed a lot of things to the way I appreciated the scene.
Anything else on this part of the story?
This is super inconsequential, but I did notice that Theo supposedly stayed in the well for the rest of the day and then the rest of the night, because when they make it out into that field, the sun is rising for a morning. But didn't Theo think that when the sun comes out again during that day, he could just get out? Like, you get really cold when you're in water for like 3 hours or more.
This seems super inconsequential. Seems like the subtitle for this entire plot line. It really does.
No, but you're right. Like it didn't really. Why did he decide to get out of his hiding place at this moment, right?
I know.
When it's dark and the orcs are still there. Like there's like nothing has changed.
Because he's as dumb as the elf cop. No one in this
Oh,
part
right.
of the world is clever. Anywho, let's move with rapidity to Numenor, because at least people there in some respects are clever. Although we do get a nice bit of Halbrand mansplaining to Galadriel about how to do
Oh
more stuff.
God.
I know. And anyway, we'll go in, I think, reverse order of importance. So let's look at the little, and these are all kind of father-daughter, father-son themed stories. Let's start off with the high school romance between Elendil's daughter and Pharazon's son, who he clearly has the hots for her, and they bump into each other in a hallway. Oh, God. Anyway, let me read, because Teddard had an interesting comment about this, which is the only thing I think is remotely interesting. Anyone else a little disappointed that Arian will be set against Elendil Isildur because of a boy? So when she was witnessing the Ar-Pharazôn speech, the crowd, I thought she might get swept up in the speech, but it looks like they're going with, oh, she falls for the guy's son, so we'll be on her side. It does seem weak.
Yeah, very basic
who cares?
in terms of plot maneuvering.
I know, but we're podcasting about it, Varley. So let's at least presume that for the next 25 minutes we care.
Yeah, but
Otherwise,
like,
we could
who
just go
cares? No, but like, who cares about it? Like, it's such a stupid little side plot. Like, it's inconsequential. Like, I don't understand why they're wasting time on this.
I'm not a super fan of the plot, but I didn't hate it either. And I think they kind of have. I mean, I get the idea that they need to get more side characters that who are gonna have an impact on the rest of the story, because otherwise it's just 2 or 3 big names and we get no new ideas and relationships. But so I don't hate the idea of adding these two as something of interest. I'm not sure they're gonna play it in the she's against her father. I'm wondering if it's not going to be the opposite, because the son doesn't seem to be a huge fan of his father either. Like he's a bit like, he's insufferable. He can convince anyone. He kind of sees through his politician bullshit. So maybe it's going to be the other way around. Either way, I agree with Tedard. I'm not a fan of the, she falls for him, so they're going to be...
It's very, very weak. I have zero interest in any of these characters. Even
Yeah.
Pharazôn so far is just like a very sort of populist bread and circuses guy. Like, I mean, I just felt that the nature of his populist speech to the people came off very much as HBO Rome, like the old show they used to do, and it was very crude. And for the writers, I felt just a bit sort of too on the nose with what they presumably feel is a commentary on today's populist politics. I just feel that whole anything to do with Pharazôn, I'm not really... It just feels like it's in a different story to me. Like it's so anachronistic to the rest of the world.
I feel like they're setting up for a Theoden kind of revival of Pharazôn. Like Sauron will get there and, get him out of his old dodderness. But yeah, the guy that looks like an old Chris Pine definitely just sounded like Trump.
It's a good eyebrow game. Probably the best eyebrows I've seen since Theo Weigel, old German central banker, for those in the know. So at this point, he hasn't been corrupted by Sauron. At this point, he's just a populist numpty, I guess.
I think it isn't clear. Like, I mean, I guess at this point, Sauron hasn't been too much of an influence in Numenor, but at the same time, we learn that the conflict between the two factions is not new, and I don't know what's them and what's Sauron in there isn't clear yet.
True. I tell you what, there wasn't enough influence off in this episode, and that was the hotness of Elendil. Another reason to... Maybe I'll reduce my rating to a 1 just on that score alone, although he did have literally the only kind of half funny line in the entirety of the 4 episodes to date. I suppose while we clear the decks before we get to the Galadriel and Muriel stuff, which is really cool, we see Isildur fuck up his sailing test, gets his 2 friends in trouble. He seems to hear Middle Earth calling to him. Any thoughts on Isil? Oh no, you fucked up your test.
Why did they fire the other 2 guys when it's obvious that they had nothing to do with it, besides to cause some cheap drama for the next scene?
Well, you called it cheap drama.
Like, I just remember watching that scene that comes after and just being like, ugh, I am thoroughly disengaged.
It does feel the quality of the writing. I mean, I know this is the most expensive show ever made, but they could have spent some more bloody money on the writers, couldn't they? Contrast this with House of the Dragon this week, and the sort of the nuance and intricacy and complexity of that episode. This is so basic and so crude.
We find out Isildur misses his mommy.
Well, there you go.
Who was dead, just like I said. Boom.
It's so Disney. It's so Disney. Okay, so we're building up slowly to Galadriel and Miriel. I think the final little piece of the puzzle there is to speak to Halbrand in prison, who Galadriel now is convinced is the missing king of the south. And he tells her that she shouldn't be galloping around on horseback, just being rude to everyone. She should actually try and figure out what they want, not to exploit it, which was an interesting first answer from Galadriel, who's meant to be a pure elf, but how to therefore understand their fear and help them achieve their aims. So, not unwise advice, but a little bit condescending. Thoughts, feelings? No? None?
Not a fan of Halbrand the Wise.
He's just going to end up going back, taking his crown, getting a ring and becoming a wraith, isn't he? I mean, it's just, there's no dramatic tension there.
Yeah, I'm just, all my rage is for the next little scene with the Palantirs, so I'll keep it to myself.
Okay, let's move to it then. Unless anyone has anything to say that isn't about Galadriel and Muriel, speak now.
So just as she's getting released from her jail cell, and then she pulls the quickie over those 3 guards, there's some very quick cuts, and then the final scene ends with her gently pushing the last guard into the prison cell, and I was like, what? It was kind of silly.
Yeah, it was a bit, I mean, just to add to the ridiculousness of the proceedings. Also, why? Anyway. Alrighty, so then we proceed and we have the story of Miriel and Galadriel. And I guess up up until this episode, Muriel has been painted as a kind of crude populist who doesn't like the other, who's very anti-elf, and comes across as quite stupid. And here we realize that actually she's a more nuanced character, that her father is dying and indeed dies, and that she's kind of been protecting the secret of his frailty rather than cruelly locking him up in a tower. She wasn't necessarily seeking to be Queen Regent. She was kind of made so by the coup d'etat. We also realize that she has the dream of the wave that Faramir has in Lord of the Rings and that Tolkien had in real life. And because of this, she fears the coming of Galadriel. She thinks this is the start of the fall of Numenor, which maybe makes us more sympathetic to her anger at Galadriel's arrival and hostility. We also realize that she has one of the Palantiri. She believes this is the only one in use and shows Galadriel that vision. Galadriel has a hilariously arrogant moment where she's like, yeah, I've touched up a Palantir before. Galadriel escapes initially on her own, but Miriel has a change of heart and realizes that maybe the moment is not to fear having Numenor taken away by the Valar, but to live up to that promise of helping the elves once more, and sends Elendil and a party to go and support her in her journey back to Middle-earth. I think that's pretty much it. Varley, do you want to go for your Hulk smash rage right now?
Okay, so they say all the Palantirs are missing, but when Elendil lands on the shores of Middle Earth, he brings with him 7 stars and 7 stones and 1 white tree. What the fuck? Well, why would they? Why would they even say that when it's already established in the movies that there are at least 2 or 3 kicking around? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Maybe Miriel just doesn't
Why?
know. Maybe Miriel doesn't know, and maybe that Palantir will end up with Elendil, and he will bring 7 to Middle Earth. You don't know that they have not
But not if
gone
they're all
canon yet.
lost.
Well, maybe they're
Where are
not.
they
She
gonna
doesn't
find it?
know. Maybe she doesn't
Well,
know.
she can use the stone to see the other stones.
Not if they're
I will say
hidden
that
from
the
you.
I will say though that the visuals of the fall of Numenor was pretty cool.
All right. Well, you are appeased. How did you find the rest of it, Varley? Any thoughts on the Muriel and Dad kind of story or anything?
Again, like, who cares?
It was nice to just get a little more from Muriel to see that there's more than meets the eye because she had been very lacking up until this point. I did find it a little strange that she's seen this vision of Numenor being flooded, but then is like, well, I'm just gonna keep on the same course, and I'm not gonna try changing anything up until the white tree starts shedding its petals or whatever. But I was just like, well, you know, the tidal wave, you seem to understand that's the wrath of the gods, and so you're just gonna keep making the Valar really angry by like being mean to the elves. Yeah. What's everyone
Odd,
else
wasn't it?
think?
Because it's like you know that you were given this island for helping the elves, and yet you're going to not help them. But is it that she feels a prisoner of the populist elements in her country? Like she kind of really wants to, but she knows Farazon is whipping them up and that they staged the coup d'etat and put her on. Maybe she feels she couldn't welcome Galadriel and she has to seem more kind of hard-ass than she really is. I don't know.
I wish they had made that more clearly. Like if she had said that specifically to Galadriel, I wish I could be of more help or something.
I think she's scared of any political unrest and conflict in Numenor. Like she seems to believe that what's going to be their downfall is if the Numenorians are not living all in peace, and so that's why I think she tries to play it so that everyone is kind of happy. The reason for the change of heart is when she sees the white petals from the white tree fall.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and so I don't know. I didn't find it that silly that she wouldn't support Galadriel, or that it wouldn't be obvious to her that the right thing to do is to be in an alliance with the elves. I think she's a bit traumatized by the almost civil war that already happened when her father was on the throne.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? If you've seen your own father deposed and you've been kind of put into place by the party and you know that Farazon's really whipping people up, then how much agency, how much room to maneuver do you really think you have? I
Mhm.
mean, it just makes you look back at episodes 1 to 3 and think a lot of that was just posturing and trying to look the strong woman when actually she's nothing of the sort, and it's Pharazôn who's really the populous strong man. And I guess this is going to set up some kind of conflict, right? Because she's now sent off Elendil and a lot of the elf lovers to go help Galadriel, and she's going to be quite exposed if Pharazôn has a go at her and says, "Why did you do this?" Like, at some point we have to see him become the regent, right, or become the ruler. So maybe this is going to be the pivot point that causes that to happen. Something's got to happen in the next episode.
Please.
I hope so, because we're
I was
halfway
thinking to
through the
myself,
season.
are any of you tempted to just not bother watching? Like, I know at some point Westworld last year, I just stopped watching. I mean, it's very rare for me to not watch a season if I'm halfway through, but or are you guys still liking it enough to, I think, Varley, you sound the most negative. Are you still going to persist and give it a go, or what's the feeling?
I feel compelled to see this through.
Me too.
I mean, I have 2 Tolkien tattoos on my body, so there's no way I'm not watching the show, but I will voice my displeasure when I am displeased.
You're just going to watch it and be pissed off, like Statler and Waldorf on the balcony in the Muppets.
Exactly. I have the
It's very
same
much how I
hairline.
picture. I very much picture you and hashtag Greg as Statler and Waldorf, like the law masters watching from the balcony, going, this sucks," but we're going to watch anyway, week after week.
We'll clap because it is over.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else to say about this episode? I mean, we can keep it short and sweet because clearly none of us really enjoyed it, apart from some of the dwarf stuff. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good length.
Oh, you know what I liked? I liked the
Hmm.
elven cranes, how they were like spirally. That was nice. When they're building the tower.
Alrighty then. Well, I'm sorry, listener, because there wasn't much enthusiasm for this episode, and you might feel if you yourself was dissatisfied that you've come here for a sucker and got none. But I hope you tune into the show next week and then into us, and hopefully things turn around. I mean, maybe just coalescing, like having Galadriel back in Middle Earth with Elendil, maybe hooking up some of the other characters. Maybe shit will start to happen, and this will all be good groundwork, and we'll look back by episode 10 and think this was all worth it. So
Yeah.
we shall.
This episode was like a Dance with Dragons, where it's just like nothing really happened, and then next episode will be the big battle, the culmination of all this plotting around bullshit.
Oh, you had to go there and mention our.
Yeah, you had to. I hate you.
Well, at
I
least
think
you
we
don't
do
have to wait
actually
10
need.
years for the next episode.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
thank God
this
for
is
that.
true. They spent way too much money on this IP. They'll be churning out episodes
Yeah.
rather quickly, I would imagine. All right, then. Well, that's a great place to leave it. If you want to come join us on Discord and enter all the debates, look for VOK Podcast, WordPress. Find the link, come join us. And otherwise, we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye everyone.